So the Democrat Party has officially shut down the government, and you know it's getting bad when even the mainstream media is starting to call them out. And Kristen Welkers, of all people, just laid it out with Hakeem Jeffries, one of the top Democrat leaders. Why is he one of the top Democrat leaders? I'll never understand. But this right here shows why they keep losing ground and finding themselves in these kind of messes. She confronted him point blank on national TV about the lies that they're telling, and he had nowhere to go. Right now, around 750,000 government employees are either being furloughed or temporarily laid off every day. This shutdown drags on, and the Democrats want people to think they're trying to spin it as if it's some sort of noble fight for health care for all. But the truth is, it goes deeper than that. It's about power. It's about optics. It's about them trying to look stronger, even if it means millions of Americans are hurt in the process. And that's what makes this whole thing so reckless. And Kristen Welker, normally one of the friendlier faces towards the left, even she called them out for basically reneging on something they've advocated for time and time again in the past. But now they've thrown all of that out the window, and it's just plain hypocritical. Let's check it out.
Let me ask you, because you say this is a Republican shutdown, but it's Democratic senators who are withholding their votes on what is called a clean resolution. That means no strings attached, which is something, quite frankly, Leader, that you and other Democrats have advocated for in the past. Take a look.
You do not use the threat of shutting down government to try to advance your policy agenda.
First thing that the House has to do is pass a clean 6-week CR.
A continuing resolution that is at the fiscal year 2023 levels is the only way forward.
And so right there in plain English for everyone to see, including Hakeem Jeffries, Democrats advocating, speaking about how this is not how it's done. This is not the route you take, which would lead to a government shutdown. And yet here they are, the hypocrisy of them taking that very route and causing the government shutdown. Let's listen to his reasoning behind why this is occurring now.
Why not fund the government and debate extending Obamacare tax credits after the fact? They don't expire till the end of the year.
Well, what we've called for is a bipartisan negotiation where Democrats and Republicans can sit down in good faith, reopen the government, pass a spending bill that actually improves the quality of life of the American people in an environment where the cost of living is already too high. Republicans promised to lower costs on day one. Costs aren't going down, they're going up. And if these Affordable Care Act tax credits are allowed to expire, premiums and healthcare costs are going to skyrocket. And America is already too expensive for the American people because of the Trump failed policies, the Trump tariffs, and this will make things worse. So we just want a bipartisan negotiation that addresses the healthcare crisis at the same period of time with the fierce urgency of now.
And so Hakeem Jeffries went to the same school of word salad that Kamala Harris went to, because that didn't answer anything. Mind you, Kristen Welker's mentioning of the extension of those Obamacare tax credits, that's something that Republicans have vocalized that they're willing to sit down and negotiate with Democrats about. And those subsidies don't expire until the end of next year. And so if Democrats really did care about the American people, they do the very thing that they always urge Republicans not to do in the past, and they would sign that bill and then continue to have those conversations once the government is back open. And so when the mainstream media, who we've seen in the past consistently be more favorable towards the left, when they're calling out this, and this isn't the first time. Matter of fact, let me bring up this other situation where I have it right here. It says NBC calls out Adam Schiff for his shutdown hypocrisy. Schiff in 2013, it's more than fair to ask the president to negotiate, but not with the threat of shutting down the government.
But you actually did make a similar point back in 2013. That's when Tea Party Republicans pushed to shut down the government against Obamacare. Let me play that for you. Get your reaction on the other side.
It's more than fair to ask the president to negotiate improvements to the Affordable Care Act, but not with the threat of shutting down the government or defaulting on our debt. It's just no way to do business and can't be allowed to proceed that way, not only for this president, but for future presidents.
I mean, it's all out there, and it is as plain as day. These people have been against government shutdown, something that they have spoke out against vehemently. But their Trump derangement, their Trump hate has led them to now going back on words that they spoke out in public, and people, even the left-leaning media, is pulling receipts on the things that they said they wouldn't do and that you shouldn't do. They're pulling the receipts now. I mean, it's all right there. There you have the clip from 2013 when Obama was in office, and they're urging, no, don't. You can disagree with the president, you can disagree with Obama, but don't shut down the government. Don't do that to the American people. And now they've totally went against their own principles. And so, yeah, these people can try and spin it as if they're fighting the noble fight for the American people for health care, but it's a lie. It's all just a lie. Listen, the reality is Democrats are allowing the far left to take over and ransack their party.
And joining me now is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson of Louisiana. Mr. Speaker, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here in person. Let's talk about your latest move. You announced this week that the House will not be in session until the government reopens, but there are still things that you could be doing. There are appropriations bills that you could be working on. There's a new Democratic Congresswoman who still needs to be sworn in. Isn't there still critical work that you could be doing on behalf of the American public?
We're doing that critical work. Let me just start by saying I listened to my friend Hakeem there, and when we used to do debate competitions in high school, they taught us to watch out for the red herring. The red herring is a distraction. Literally everything my friend just said there was unnecessary, because what he's trying to talk about is a December funding issue, the health care provision, some of these Obamacare subsidies that expire December 31st. He is looking over entirely the fact that we have to keep the government open in order to have those bipartisan debates and discussions that he just referenced. The simple CR that we passed in the House more than 2 weeks ago does exactly that. It is a clean CR. It's only 24 pages in length. It's the simplest thing that's ever been done, and it's exactly what Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and all the rest of them said must be done. You saw the tape. We could roll that tape for hours, all of them saying this passionately as recently as earlier this year, that we had to keep the government open in order to do our job.
There is, Speaker, still critical work, though. And as you know, many Democrats have looked at your move. They say the House is not in session because you don't want to swear in this newly elected senator, the Democratic Congresswoman from Arizona, who would be a critical vote to releasing the Epstein files. How do you respond?
It's totally absurd.
Charge?
This has nothing to do with that. It's another red herring. The reason the government is closed is because Chuck Schumer and 43 of his Democrat colleagues in the Senate have decided now to vote multiple times to keep the government closed. We need them to turn the lights back on so that everyone can do their work. The House did our work. We passed a bipartisan, clean, continuing resolution to keep the government open. And what did Chuck Schumer send back in response? His counterproposal would add $1.5 trillion in new spending for a simple 7-week stopgap funding measure to keep the government open so all these appropriations bills can be finished. And they want to claw back $50 billion that we put in for rural hospitals to prop them up. They're not serious. This is not a serious negotiation. They're doing this to get political cover because Chuck Schumer is afraid that he won't win his next reelection bid to the Senate because he's going to be challenged by a Marxist in New York, because that's the new popular thing out there.
When this entire government shutdown occurred, those were the thoughts that went through my head exactly. I did not think for a second that the main concern they had was looking to try and provide health coverage for the American people, let alone illegal immigrants. This has been about Democratic leadership trying to find a way to save themselves because they see what's around the corner and they only have themselves to blame. And that's the problem with the Democratic Party right now, is their desire to cater to the far left. They see the Zohran Mamdanis of the world in New York City getting ready to become the next mayor, the self-described Democratic socialist. And they think that that is the route to go. And ultimately, it's only going to continue to backfire on them more and more as it pushes away the normal, the regular American, the people who they actually should be catering to, people who are in more towards the center and show that they're actually willing to work with the president, that they actually want to actually have safe, secure borders, that they want to actually stop and clean up crime in these liberal-run cities. And now it's gotten to the point where they have pushed themselves so much to the far left that they're isolating themselves, that they're actually losing their core base, not because they agree with everything the president is doing, but because they have common sense and they believe that we should have strong borders. And They believe that Americans should come first. They no longer even recognize the party that they once stood by and supported for so many years. But let me know what you guys think about this. Leave your questions, thoughts, and your feedback down below. And make sure you stick around for the next video. Chicago in denial after a woman is shot after attacking ICE agents with her vehicle. But government leaders still denying everything and calling it all propaganda. Stay tuned for that video coming up next.